So Donald Trump just said there will be hell to pay for Hamas. Born Iran, he'll knock the hell out of them. Joked about not wanting to waste fuel on a B-2 bomber, and somehow did all of this while standing next to Benjamin Netanyahu and Mar-a-Lago like it was a real estate closing. This isn't a Marvel movie. This is U.S. foreign policy. And today we're breaking down what was said, what it actually means, and why everyone from Gaza to Tehran to Washington should be paying attention. Let's start here. Trump meets Netanyahu in Florida. Cameras are rolling. The wide, part press conference, part threat assessment, part fast and furious Middle East drift. Trump says Hamas has a very short period of time to disarm. If they don't, quote, there'll be hell to pay. Now, that phrase alone does a lot of heavy lifting, because on paper it sounds simple. Ceasefire exists, Hamas disarms, everyone moves forward. But in reality, disarmament isn't just a military question. It's a political, ideological, and historical one. Hamas has said repeatedly that it won't permanently give up weapons as long as Israeli occupation continues. Israel says security comes first. The US says compliance comes first. And suddenly the ceasefire stops being a pause and starts looking like a countdown clock. Trump framed the delays entirely as Hamas's fault. Hamas hasn't publicly responded. Meanwhile, Israeli strikes have continued, aid has been restricted, and crossings remain partially closed. So when Trump says Israel has done its part, that's not a neutral assessment. It's a position. And positions matter because they shape what comes next. Just when you think this is only about Gaza, Trump pivots. Iran. He claims Iran might be trying to rebuild its nuclear program after U.S. strikes earlier this year damaged 3 facilities. And his response? If they are, we're going to knock them down. We'll knock the hell out of them. More powerful than last time. Then comes the line that made diplomats everywhere rub their temples. I don't want to waste fuel on a B-2. This is where rhetoric and reality collide. Because joking aside, this is a very real warning. Trump is signaling preemptive military action if Iran is perceived to be rebuilding. But here's a keyword, perceived. He offered no public evidence. Iran denies seeking a nuclear weapon, and Iran has ruled out negotiations over its missile program entirely. So now we are back in familiar territory. Claims, counterclaims, deterrence, and the risk of miscalculation. History tells us that wars don't always start because someone wanted one. They start because someone thought the other side was about to do something. Trump has taken credit for brokering 3 ceasefires: Israel-Hamas, Israel-Iran, Israel-Lebanon. On paper, that sounds like diplomacy working, but ceasefires aren't peace treaties. They're more like, we'll stop yelling for now. Netanyahu, for his part, has made it clear Israel doesn't want its adversaries using ceasefires to regroup, rearm, and return stronger. That concern isn't hypothetical. It's shaped by decades of regional conflict. But critics argue that constant military pressure without political solutions creates the exact cycle everyone says they want to avoid. And this is where Trump's stance becomes important. Despite private concerns from some U.S. aides about Netanyahu's commitment to the Gaza truce, Trump publicly aligns himself squarely with the Israeli leader. That alignment sends a message to allies and adversaries alike about where Washington stands if things escalate. Then there's Iran missile program. U.S. Senator Lindsey Graham, after visiting Israel, warned that Iran is producing long-range missiles in very high numbers. Israel worries these missiles could overwhelm its Iron Dome defense system. Trump's response when asked if the U.S. would back Israel strikes: missiles, yes. Nuclear facilities, immediately. That's not ambiguity, that's clarity. But clarity cuts both ways, because Iran has already shown it will respond. After U.S. strikes in June, Iran launched missiles at a U.S. base in Qatar. No casualties, but the message was clear: we can hit back. Analysts warned that another attack wouldn't end the same way. The next response, they say, would likely be harsher, broader, and harder to contain. Now here's a twist. Just weeks ago, the Trump administration released a national security strategy saying the U.S. wants to shift focus away from the Middle East and toward the Western Hemisphere. Less Middle East, more elsewhere. But warnings, threats, and red lines tell a different story. You can't pivot away from a region while also saying, if you move, we strike. That's not disengagement. That's conditional involvement with missiles. And this contradiction is what worries foreign policy experts, because every new threat increases the chance that someone misreads the moment and presses the button. So, where does this leave us? Trump's language is forceful, direct, and unmistakably his. Supporters see strength and deterrence. Critics see escalation and risk. Hamas is under pressure to disarm, something it has historically resisted. Iran is under warning not to rebuild, something it denies doing. Israel wants security guarantees. The US wants leverage without another war. Everyone says they don't want escalation. Everyone is acting like it's still possible. And that's the most dangerous part, because the difference between posturing and policy can disappear very fast. This moment isn't about one court or one meeting. It's about how power is signaled, how threats are interpreted, and how fragile ceasefires really are. No villains, no heroes, just governments, interests, history, and very real consequences. Because when leaders say hell to pay, someone somewhere eventually gets a bill, and the world is watching who ends up paying it.